Hello, everybody. After a bit of a hiatus, we're back with the Survivor New
Woo.
York Bannerman Island exit interview podcast. It's me, Naomi. More importantly, who do we have here? The legend, the Lord, the Savior. We have Chris, Lord. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? You're also a legend, Naomi. Always giving me the
Uh,
compliments.
I'm
We,
a
we
I'm
share
a
the
legendary
status.
loudmouth, sure.
And I'm the opposite.
Great to see you
Exactly.
both. It's
Oh,
been a
I'm so
while.
excited.
Yeah.
I know. And Danny, I
Yeah,
think our combined origin story goes way back,
That's true.
back to the fall of 2018, 17.
It
I'm
was
bad at
I was
years.
wondering if you were talking about like your guys's or the
No,
three of us, but I
no
guess you're about the
when
three of us.
Naomi and I met. That's right, at Brooklyn South 1.
Mhm.
with Chris. We're all,
Yes,
actually, are
with
we all
Chris.
representatives of
Right.
different
That's right.
tribes? I
Because
think we
You
are.
didn't play though, right?
I
You were
did
helping.
play. No,
He
I
did
did
play.
You
play.
played? Oh
Danny,
man,
I voted you out. Okay, we're getting ahead of the story, but Danny's here
oh,
joining us. He is our third place finisher of the season.
Yes, we
Let's get
are.
right into it. So we met Danny, Naomi, and I playing in
Yeah.
Survivor Brooklyn South season 1. It was a very big live reality game that had just come back into existence because Matt Pavlovich had hosted it before. Then
mm,
George took over and he brought out this season. And it is an all-star stacked cast that had Jacob Derwin from Survivor Ghost Island play it.
oh right.
And I actually got the last minute phone call because RC from Survivor Philippines dropped out. So I got to play because of that.
Wow.
And that's how the three of us really kind of, well, I met you a little bit before that, Naomi, but that's how we got to know Danny
That's
and a few
right.
other Survivor New York
Yeah.
legends.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's right. I literally stumbled across the Facebook group and saw, I think George had posted this thing, and I've always been a big fan of the show and just threw my hat in the ring. Yeah, that's where we all met.
how did you meet George?
No, just through the
Literally the internet, the power of
literally
online.
through that
Oh,
live reality game. There's like a Facebook group called Live
yes.
Reality Games. And I think when George was casting, originally there was like a Google form thing. So I just like
Oh,
randomly filled out
wow.
this Google form, and I met him over, like a video interview, and he said he was excited to cast me. And yeah, so it was
Wow.
such a great.
How did you even know about live reality games, though? That's
Yeah,
so interesting.
I found out about that from a friend of mine, this guy named Jamie Potter, who had heard about it from Alex
Ah!
Bostonhauser. And
It always
so
goes back to
Oh,
Alex.
okay.
and
Oh,
so yeah,
Jamie.
so he because he knew I was a fan of Survivor, and so he and I best friends through Teach for America, and so he had told me to take a look at this, and then I was just paying attention to when things were posted. So wow, yeah,
That's
that was
so
what,
funny.
6 years ago, 5 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jamie is like the
Don't say it like
unofficial
that. Oh
19th
my
cast
God.
member.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh my God. I can't believe it was that long ago. Well,
Yeah.
I say this mostly because Danny, I think um overall, and we're gonna get into like all the details, I was so impressed that the game that I think you the person you are is like exactly what you get in the game, and it sends you home like right at the merge, you know? And I was very impressed that you were able to take those experiences, season 1, season 2, and turn it around into this different outcome.
Yeah.
And I really just remember walking away. I thought you were going to be the merge brute. I was like, Danny screwed. There it is again. And you turned it all around. How
Yeah.
does it feel like in retrospect to have such a different experience than from the
Yeah.
past?
So, I mean, so I played in Brooklyn South 1 and 2. And as you were alluding to, I was pretty early merge boot. And what I sort of learned from that is that people like to keep me in during the tribe portion of the game, because I think I do a pretty good job at bringing people together. I'm happy to play the hero role, except for puzzles, maybe not so much, but for a lot of the other sort of, whether it's grappling or carrying heavy things or whatever, like I'm pretty good at those kinds of things. But then I would get to the merge fine, but without allies that were willing to support me, and without numbers. And so I was playing from the bottom as soon as the merge happened, most in those other games. And so I went into Survivor New York, Bannerman Island, with sort of the knowledge that challenges are important, yes, but more important is actually like building strong alliances and having people who are going to have my back when it gets tough, especially, you know, at the merge. And I think I was able to do that in this game for sure.
Definitely. And I have to say, playing with you, we only played one round together, but you are very intense strategist, I have to say, and it was very like vocal and you didn't give up. And that persistency, and also I feel like going into Brooklyn South season 2, you displayed like this very like alpha personality, and I feel like that's a great archetype to sort of put on to a live reality game. So casting you, it was about the right time because I feel like there can't be too many alphas. But then lo and behold, we find out there was kind of too many alphas in your season. But I think this season was perfect for you because I remember you had applied maybe for season 2, season 3, and season 3 and season 4 maybe.
Yeah, I had definitely applied to Survivor New York
Yeah.
A couple times before being cast this time around.
And it was like the timing was just right, and I feel like I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Like so many of your relationships, like you and Annie, you and Kristen, you and Stan, you and Brandon, just so many like really cool relationships that we saw throughout this season. But before we get into those, I just want to know, like, your arrival on day 0, how did that go for you? Seeing familiar faces, meeting these people for the first time. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I certainly was nervous, going into it. I was personally escorted by Jordan on production, and then so we took the train up, and we were chatting a little bit. Obviously, he wasn't giving away anything at all. But he was just sort of just chatting with him, and I think he could tell I was a little nervous. And he did say, "Oh, there's actually someone else who's playing in your season who's going to be coming with us." And so we. To basically go from the train to the start. And so lo and behold, we get off at whatever stop it was. And I meet Kristen being escorted by Alex Fossenhauser. And so we are in the, so we're driving and we're starting to chat a little bit. The production is like, oh, you're not really supposed to talk yet, and so, but we sort of were like, it was apparent that like we wanted to work together basically from even before day 0, before we even stepped foot. I had a good feeling about Kristen. We both were like into math. We were joking about that in the car and a whole number of different things. We had like the same favorite movie, Inception. And just like,
wow.
We just like a bunch of things came out at the same time, and we just like were vibing really well. And so so I get there, one of the first people there actually on day 0, and I think Laura was there, and like we were there as people trickled in. Sharif came in pretty early as well, right after us, and we started chatting with him. And I do think it was a little bit of an advantage getting there early and being able to get a scope of the land and feel comfortable already. And start having some of those conversations, just getting to know people. And so, pretty quickly connected with Sharif. I could tell that we were going to maybe try to work together depending upon some of those pieces, and sort of how the tribes were going to shake down. But, and then it was a great sort of, just a really great introduction, all sitting around the campfire, all chatting. We had some snacks. And this was before we even had our tribes assigned. And it was just sort of, chatting with different people. I distinctly remember sitting on a bench with Brienne and talking about 3D printing and like those conversations like stick in your mind for sure. And I think, I think were the building blocks of what came to be alliances down the line.
Speaking of alliances, in particular, because I don't think this is ever really made like fully clear in the season, but you and Stan like vaguely know each other, and I think Stan really liked. Okay, the season The Survivor Brooklyn South Brains tribe, God bless them, was Emily F. from season 4, Alex Forsenhauser, seasons 1 and 2, and your friend Jamie, and
Right.
Stan,
Yeah.
and Laura, right?
And
oh my
Laura.
God.
And Laura,
This tribe is
yeah.
iconic, and Emma, who has not played, but we love Emma. And this tribe basically Matt singed themselves. They lost every challenge. It was terrible. And Stan and Jamie, I think, had a real bonding experience, but you were also so close to Jamie. And I think that that was, I mean, we knew you guys were like vaguely friends. And so we were like, all right, they're not in the same tribe. Keep them separate. Like, let's
So
separate them out.
I'll speak to that too. Yeah. So Stan, I mean, I saw Stan and we kind of played it cool. We didn't like when he came in, he shook my hand pretending to meet me for the first time, being like, hey, I'm Stan, as opposed to like giving me a big hug, because there were people around. And so, yeah, so I mean, I had in my mind, like, I'm going to try to work with Stan if I can as well, since I knew him. I was hoping to work with Laura as well, since I knew her. But other than the two of them and sort of the ride up with Kristen, I didn't really know anyone else. And so Day Zero was really, was really instrumental in sort of making those bonds for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great, and Chris, I know we've talked about this. I think it's a great way to encourage everybody to make connections across tribes so that when the merge hits, people, which I think is definitely demonstrated by the people you were willing to work with at the merge. It wasn't just, Kristen and nobody else. I think you had a lot of room to maneuver, and I bet that would definitely be because of something like a Day Zero. So I'm glad we did it.
For sure. And I love that we had sort of that initial challenge. My team won on the balance beam, using the opposite strategy that the other, both the other tribes sort of went tall to short. We went short to tall, sort of the opposite way. And had our, sort of the tall people like crawl over the shorter ones, to start. And I remember I was chosen to like take our loot. And because I had watched season 4 of Survivor New York, where there was like idol stuff in there, I was like fondling the snacks to see like, is there anything in here? What's going on? There wasn't anything, obviously, but we got all the best stuff, and we, divided the other ones evenly. And then we had, I mean, like that whole night, I don't know if people slept really that well. I mean, like I probably got 3 to 4 hours, maybe 4 hours of actual sleep. Somebody was snoring in the tent for sure. Maybe Stan. Yeah,
Stan.
I think.
Well, were you up strategizing? Because there were people who were up strategizing that night, and were you a part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was. There was a time, Ari and I sort of had some time like behind the tent, and we're chatting. At that point we were on the same tribe, and so he and I looked like we were going to work well together. There were other. I mean, so yes, absolutely. I was chatting with my tribe, with other tribes, just trying to. And also just listening too, and sort of keeping and trying to make sure I wasn't missing anything important, But at a certain point, I was like, I think I was probably towards the first half of people that were like, all right, it's time to wind down and try to get some shut eye. Although I didn't actually fall asleep for a while, in part because of the heat and then the snoring and just the excitement, the nerves. Right, we're so nervous as we started.
One of my big questions for you for this interview, Danny, is that you were chosen by Andy, and I think chosen by the tribe to make a decision, but then you chose Andy to make the decision. But in a different world, if you were the one that had to make the decision, would you have gone for the idol clue, or would you have gone for the advantage in the challenge? Because you were such a great team player coach. I feel like my mind is saying you'd go that way, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah, no, I think Andy played it the way I would have hoped to. I mean, like I don't know if I would have come up with that, in time. Especially given that he wasn't able to find it during that first look. I think it's tricky if you take the time and then you find the idol, and now it's like, well, how do you play that? Because then you've be like, hey guys, by the way, I have an idol, or you keep that, or you lie to the tribe. And so Andy had sort of the best of both worlds. He was able to be honest and say like, hey, like I feel like we've got a great team. We can find it. and like, let's here's the clue. Let's all find it together kind of thing. And so I think that obviously that didn't happen because Kristen found it secretly, and we can talk about that. But I think I would have done the same. I mean, getting that idle clue, is good. And, and I think, yeah, I think I would have gone for the clue and probably also not been able to find it. And then probably come to the same conclusion that Andy did, which is like, I better come clean because they're going to want to know like what this whole thing was. And if I have nothing to show for it, we're in trouble. And you certainly don't want to lie to your whole tribe right off the bat. So I probably would have done almost exactly what Andy did.
That's funny.
And it does make sense to me also because I think that you had a very strong team challenge-wise.
Yeah.
And I remember that the advantage was that essentially you got one grappling hook, 2 grappling hook bags already over
You
your
got
station.
one. Yeah, you were given one that you didn't have to get, which wasn't even. I don't know if it would have made a difference in that challenge.
Well, you guys had the strategy, huh? Like the challenge hackers over here.
Yes.
I didn't even notice that you guys had a strategy in the first challenge until it was done, and people are like, "Is that allowed?" And I was like, "Oh yeah,
yeah."
Sure.
No, we checked with production beforehand. Didn't do it all. Didn't make a big deal out of it. But basically, yeah, we asked if we could. I've done grappling hooks before in Brooklyn South, and it is the kind of thing like you look at it and you're like, I feel like I know how to do that, but then like it's kind of there is a learning curve for sure. But I knew that I would be able to do it since I had done it before. And so I was able to sort of grapple all the bags in close enough to be grabbed. And then we were able to grab them. So I was just able to do sort of all the grappling work. I also made sure to have the longer of the 2 grapples, which I think was important for that one too. But yeah, we did have a really strong tribe. And honestly, the only challenge we lost was the one I sat out. So I think, I don't know. Maybe it would have gone differently if I had sort of put my foot down and said like, no, like I want to play. I want to compete. And it was really hard to sit, to be honest. I
honestly, I remember that moment. I was genuinely shocked that you did. Like it just didn't make sense. And I was like thinking, do they want to lose? Like it didn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't. It
would have changed the whole game.
It really would have. And ultimately, I think it was okay, and that because we were able to, you don't want to come in necessarily with like your whole tribe, and then the other 2 tribes who are, are going to be the same numbers combined. They'll have to form together to take you guys out, to take your group of 6 out, and so it's okay to lose a couple and to build those bonds as well. Like in the voting booth, that's really where you build that, you show that trust, you build that trust with people who you are, aligned with. So it was a blessing and a curse. It was hard to sit and watch, and watch us lose that one. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I was a little bit of the sort of the de facto tribe leader when it came to executing on challenges. That was, in terms of like, okay, we're going to do this, keeping, especially on that 4th challenge, which was my favorite challenge, by the way.
I have to give you a round of applause because that was amazing. I mean, just watching that footage, because I think that's the one that I had edited from the pre-merge.
Yes.
You did most of the other ones. But
give a reminder, Chris. Set the scene.
Yeah,
so
go ahead, Chris.
The challenge is there's a square, like wooden board. It has 4 ropes. So one member of each tribe is holding a rope, and they're balancing a cue ball on it, trying to land 3 cue balls into a bucket. And then I think after the cue balls, you can throw the sandbags to knock
you have
down
to hit
the
the target.
So, the green tribe is really just fucking up the whole time. I mean, like
big time.
Purple gets the first 2 in right away.
Yep.
And never gets another one in after that, but green was able to get their first one in. I think it was like a 7-minute mark. It was insane.
Yeah.
But it was a lot, like the challenge was mostly you sort of directing them, doing this, up and down.
As I think back to it, I just remember being like, we dropped a ball, and I remember like we ran back and everyone was kind of defeated because there was a time when we got so close and we missed it. And I came back and I remember like, all right, everybody.
That was many times.
Many times that happened. But there was one particular time where we like almost got there and people were kind of like dragging a little bit. And I was like, okay, guys, like deep breath, like we got this, like we like I felt like I was able to sort of like center us in that moment, kind of, and we were able to. It really felt like a come from behind win there, and that was huge because if we had lost that one, that was the one with the where one person like leaves, right, or there's a kidnapping.
Yes, the kidnapping.
Right. And so I mean, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. I don't know who would have gotten kidnapped. But, I think at that point, I was very close with both Andy and Kristen, as well as McKenna and Robin to an extent. But especially if Robin had gotten kidnapped, and then now it's the four of us, I have no idea what happens, right?
I think that's
a crazy vote. Oh my God.
I think that would have happened, and I think it would have ended up being McKenna going, potentially, just because I felt like you and Andy were very close.
Really?
I don't know.
I think it's like Kristen plays her idol on McKenna and Andy goes home.
We had the whole idol
thing.
Maybe. I would have, I don't know. I really don't know. I really wanted to. I mean, we would have wanted to preserve Kristen's idol, and I think unfortunately it would have been Kristen, McKenna, and me taking out Andy in that. Although I was starting to get closer to Andy, and there was a time later in the game where I was closer to Andy than I was to Kristen, which is why I told him about the hiding the nullifier, and I didn't tell Kristen until after Andy was blindsided. But I think that early in the game I was closer with with Kristen and McKenna. But anyway, thankfully that didn't happen, and we made it to the swap. Oh my God!
Thank God.
Before we get into the swap, though, I want to ask you about what was it like reliving? Well, you didn't really relive it, but like watching Kristen find the idol and like watching that scramble going on.
Did
you look there? Because I remember you picked that stump up.
I looked there after. I picked that whole stump up after she had already gotten it. I found out that she had it from Andy, who had gone through her bag, right? And he told me, and also later told McKenna. But my basic thing was like, we don't want to waste this. Let's use this. I still wanted to work with Kristen, even though she hadn't told me about the idol. In part just from sort of the day zero and stuff. I felt like I could trust her still. I didn't think that I felt like she still needed allies, and I wanted to be an ally with someone who has an idol. And so once it sort of came to light, and that actually happened a little bit before the trial where Ari was voted out. And so there was even a little bit of like, should we just blindside Kristen? I don't know if that made it to the cut, but Andy maybe even asked me that. And I sort of squashed that and said like, no, let's go. Let's try to keep us all strong. We got all five of us to to sort of vote in the same way. And I think that was my goal, was to sort of do damage control and be like, let us get back to this cohesive group so that when there's a swap, when there's a merge, we all feel good about working together. And I think I did that to an extent. I think Andy and Kristen maybe still had some, some, especially watching it back, maybe some mistrust or distrust in each other, which is fair. I mean, Kristen didn't tell him, and then he went through her bag, and then Kristen sort of made a show of like telling Andy like, oh, I found the idol, but like we all knew that wasn't what happened. So there was that, it wasn't, so I never was fully mended, but that was I felt my role was to try to like, let's make sure that we have at least a good, strong 4, and 5 with even, if we can all stay in.
Well, something you mentioned that's very interesting to me is I thought that the scenes where you were essentially trying to facilitate Kristen apologizing to Andy, and like you and McKenna were having all these big brain trusts about it. I found those scenes so funny because like everybody was basically like able to contribute an opinion to something where Kristen could have just easily gone up to Andy and been like, by the way, sorry, I have the idol, like let's work it out.
Yeah.
And I kind of found that like watching the episodes back and watching your gameplay back, it was you felt very like a collaborator to me in this interesting way where you were always bringing ideas to people and like always discussing things with your allies. And I'm wondering if you felt that you would do things differently or hold more secrets back, or if you felt like you really enjoyed sort of making like getting everybody to sort of work together, like you just talked about having this core group of people, or
Yeah,
if you'd
I
hold a
mean,
little more back.
I didn't necessarily give any information that wasn't known. I mean, like, like
Yeah.
Andy told me that Kristen had the idol. Yes, and then I confronted her about it basically after that tribal. No, like I found out about it before the Ari tribal, but I didn't tell her because I didn't want her to freak out and feel like she had to play it or something along those
It
lines.
would have
And
been good
so,
TV though if you had told her that.
yeah,
That would
but
have been a
I
great
mean,
episode.
and it wasn't filmed, but like there was on the bus ride back. She says, I basically said like we'll talk or something. Like she said something to me, and I was like we'll talk when we get back. And she was like gave me a look like, wait, am I in trouble? What's going on? And then so I was able to be like, hey, like be real with me. I thought we were like each other's number ones for real. Why am I hearing you have an idol from Andy? And then she was obviously upset that Andy had found that out. And then I was mostly just trying to make sure that they could work together because I wanted to have those numbers all working together. And so I don't think I necessarily was giving. I guess I did tell Kristen that Andy knew that she had the idol, but hopefully that made her realize that she could trust me and build our relationship more.
Hmm.
And I think ultimately it was able. Kristen and I were able to work together throughout the game.
Definitely. Just talking on relationships, I want to say I think the relationship with you and Robin was a very unlikely duo, but it was like a very beautiful friendship that I saw because I feel like
Yeah.
the two of you lead very different lives in my opinion. And I could be wrong about that, but
Yeah.
just from how I know you guys, um, and I think also even in some ways like you and McKenna's relationship was really interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
And even in you and Ari's. So can you talk about those other relationships on your tribe? Because I feel
Sure.
like the audience knows so much about like you and Kristen obviously, and you and Andy obviously, but
Yeah.
um, like and also like were you crushed to see McKenna leave?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
follow up
and I
question.
wish we had like slipped her the idol. I don't, ahead of her tribal council.
Ah.
And we thought about that briefly. Yeah, no. So I'll sure. So McKenna and I definitely had a great relationship. It was clear that she and Kristen were tight as well. And I felt like we were a trio in a lot of ways. I also had a separate relationship with Andy that was really strong, and I wanted to work with him in part because I saw him as a shield as well. I wanted to keep sort of these bigger, physical threats in the game as well. And so, but yeah, I mean, and with McKenna, we definitely connected. We had a lot of fun. That some of it made the cut, but we did a lot of games as a tribe. I sort of started we played Thumper and other things as we were hanging out, having won the first couple challenges. And so, yeah, I had some great conversations with McKenna, as well as with Robin and with Ari. So, as I mentioned, with Ari, he and I had spent time, the night before. And, I believe that Ari and I could have actually gone pretty far together if we hadn't I'm not sure actually. I'd be curious to hear what he would have said too, because I know I think he had told a few people like he was like they're like you're my number one, and he definitely told me that, and I'm sure he told that to a few other people, and I think that's what sort of got him is that people sort of were like, wait, has Ari said this to you as well? And I don't know. It was I was I feel like I was close, maybe just a little bit closer with Andy and Kristen and McKenna. So I don't know. And then, but yeah, my relationship with Robin was also great. I, was so glad to meet them and learned so much about how we might be able to work together, and we were able to do that up until a point, and really enjoyed. I thought we had a great tribe from a personality standpoint, from a strength standpoint. We all had sort of different different things to contribute.
I think also you and Robin in particular, you two are, and I think actually maybe this is the whole tribe in some ways, but Robin is always thinking ahead, and I think you're both gamers, in my opinion. You're
Sure.
not only, like, playing the social game, but you're playing the strategy too, and Kristen, I think, and McKenna, and, all these people are gamers, and I think that's really what this tribe, was about, and you saw a lot of mutual benefit in everybody, and I remember when you guys were losing that challenge we were talking about earlier, I was like, I can't see this tribe go back to tribal council. I can't. Like, I was just so panicked that it was like it was going to be
Yeah.
Robin or it was going to be Anthony. I was like, I cannot lose another green. I really cannot do this.
Oh, thank you.
So I was so glad that it worked out okay. But again, that challenge I think is very if you're watching the season and you go back, anyone in the audience, that challenge is very representative, I think, the way that tribe, the Polypal tribe functioned, just like you were grounding everybody, bringing us all back to center, and then like,
That's
okay, we
true.
can do this. Let's
That's good
believe in
insight.
each other. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. And we were able to keep the good times rolling, really in the swap. We were all, I mean, obviously, unfortunately, McKenna went to the other tribe, but we had a majority out of the 7-person tribe with just the greens. And so we were definitely going to stick strong. And we're definitely going to, if we needed to, we would have, taken out somebody else. And so it was great that we were all together. It was unfortunate that we lost McKenna, but also, again, I think getting to that merge and having like it, I do think there was a target on purple in part because they had so many people that made it to the merge. And so I think it's okay to maybe lose some of your people, but yeah, I mean, we did a great job in that sort of that middle portion. My tribe, just really cruised on the challenges, especially like, I think my personal best was in the, that slingshot challenge. I not only was I lucky enough to be, I know we randomly selected who would get to go up first. And so, I got to go up first. And so it was very easy for me to get that idol nullifier. But then so that was a big win for me. But then also, like, in the actual points of the slingshot, I think I was able to score quite a few and help us get that victory.
Yeah, that was very smooth of you. I mean, even watching on camera, it doesn't even look like you're grabbing anything. So I have to commend you on that.
Well, I mean, what I did was first I like looked like before we even started, like I was up there and it was like before you had like called like, okay, like get ready, go. I was looking to see if I could see it and like pretending like I could I was getting a ball, and then I saw the sort of the survivor string and the burlap sack, and so knew like, okay, that's where it is. And then when I decided I was going to go for it after the point, like as people were, especially if the ball went far, people would be looking that way or people would be celebrating if somebody caught it. And so I did it sort of as I was getting up, and that was all sort of planned. Once I got there and saw where it was, that was sort of my plan in order to get possession of it. And then because everybody knew about it, I just told everybody. I think I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't think we knew that the thing. I don't remember I don't think the clue told us that it was an idol nullifier. It was just an advantage of some kind. Is that right?
No,
it did. So we well, I think the thing was we were very worried about an idol nullifier being in the game, 3 people having idols and having no idea that that their idols could be nullified, right? Because it kind of ruins the way that a person would play their idol. And so when Jeremy reads that clue out to you guys out loud in the tent, I was always fascinated by his willingness to sort of share all that information, but I think he was trying to be an open book. And he lets you know it's an idol nullifier, it's at the challenge, and I was always impressed that you were able to not only get it, but sort of everybody kind of acquiesced to like just letting you have it, and nobody, even in the edit, nobody seems upset that you have it. It's crazy.
And I read the rules of it for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of people don't think that an idol nullifier is as powerful as it can be, because it was successfully used once on the real show, but I think a lot of people just don't see it as powerful as an idol. And I think obviously was proven its power this season with it being
Yeah.
used correctly, and being the only advantage to be used correctly as well.
Yeah.
I'm getting two scenes mixed up in my head. You're right, Danny. There was no announcement of what it was until you found it, and then you read it out loud to everybody.
Yeah, and so
Um,
I don't
I
remember exactly how I think we knew that there was an advantage at the challenge, but we didn't necessarily know what it was. So I maybe could have played that differently, if that was the case. Just not necessarily telling everybody that it's an idle nullifier, but I don't remember. But I think it was okay to try to show trust, build trust with some of those people. Yeah. So then what? So then we made it to the merge.
well,
yes.
here's
Or sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna okay. I want to ask one thing, which is
Please.
who do you think would have gone home on your tribe if you had to vote somebody out? Would it have been Jeremy? Would it have been Brienne? What's the tea?
I think it probably would have been Jeremy. I think I had gotten better vibes with Brienne, and I wanted to work with Sharif, and I think it was clear that they were working together. And so I think we probably would have gone for Brienne. I do not think we would have gone for Stan. Was definitely safe. I think there's a chance maybe maybe we could have gone against Robin, but just because the other Andy, Kristen, and I were I think we're at that point mended. But I think we probably would have just stayed green strong though and taken out. I do think it would have been either Jeremy or Brienne. Probably, I think more likely Jeremy, but it's really hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would have been Jeremy based off what everyone said so far.
It's really hard to say. I think it would have been Jeremy.
Yeah, everyone said Jeremy so far.
Okay.
Stan has texted me Jeremy. We love Jeremy. We understand.
Yeah.
He is clearly like the luckiest player, I feel like, because he's just survived so much.
Yeah.
But going into the merge, you get second in the immunity challenge.
Yeah.
And Veronica is coming at you hard.
Ooh,
there are other
big
people
time.
saying your name too. It's just like, Danny is this threat, and you are a threat. I mean, you are a good physical challenge player. You do go on to win two immunity challenges and come close in a few other ones.
Yeah.
So she was correct in some of her statements, but the vote sort of kind of flip flops. Annie's a target, Jeremy's a target, you're a target. But you guys kind of settled for Jeremy at that moment, and I feel like it stems kind of what you said, that Jeremy would have been voted out from your tribe.
Yeah.
But talk about that merge chaos.
Sure.
Night.
I mean, it was super chaotic, and I mean, we had so many people that I hadn't really worked with at all yet, but there were people that I knew I wanted to work with. And I mostly was just trying to survive, though. I wanted it to just not be me. And because we also didn't know, but we thought that we were going to bed after that. And so I was like, okay, let's just get through, or at least I did. I was like, let's get through this vote, and then I'll be able to relax, and I can figure it out. I don't think anyone was really expecting to have to do that vote right then and there. And so yeah, I mean, I was definitely scrambling, trying to get my green allies to help and put it on, and have it land on Jeremy, and thankfully it did. But
I mean, that felt like the manifestation of I don't want to go home with the merge. Don't do this to me.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
But also, I think it's so funny that Veronica comes at you, because I think you and Veronica get along swimmingly, and it's such a funny I think she could have worked pretty well with you, but she's immediately like, no, we got to vote out Danny.
Yeah, I guess. And what's interesting is I think I am very good at challenges. I'm very good at the team challenges. I am not as good at the individual challenges when it comes to balancing. I mean, I won a few, but a lot of these endurance ones, I have a low pain tolerance. I give up early. I'm not as good on a lot of the individual challenges. And sometimes being great at team challenges doesn't translate into into the individual ones. I'm relatively fast. I'm relatively strong. I don't have the best balance. I don't have the best endurance, and I wasn't able to use my strengths until maybe later on. I don't know. But yeah, I think I honestly, some of it was luck. I think Stan wanted to work with me, and so Stan helped protect me, I think, in that vote. That was sort of the birth of the Big Boys Alliance. And yeah, I think Stan was a huge reason, especially watching it back. Stan was a huge reason why I didn't go home first at the merge. I mean, there was even a time when he was like, "No, I don't want to do that." I think Julia was saying, "Let's do Danny," and like Stan had my back, and so yeah. I mean, it was a mix of luck. And I also credit Stan for having me not play the idol nullifier against Jeremy. I even asked him. And you probably couldn't see, but I whispered something to him, and I basically said, "Do you think I need to use a nullifier?" And he said, "No." And I trusted him, and had this crazy idea as I go up to vote that maybe I should just hide it, and people will think that I've used it. Especially because after I hit it, I emptied my pockets as I came back. I didn't have my bag with me for the rest of the game, and so I tried to make it look like I actually had used it. I also had. And I was able to do that in part because I had read the rules to everybody, which is that if a nullifier is played, but there's not an idol played for that person who you're using the nullifier against, it just stays in the urn. It's not announced. And so I knew I could sort of fake that I had played it. But yeah, a big piece of that was Stan sort of giving me the nod that like I didn't need to play it. And he was right.
I think Stan brought you a lot of, I don't want to say comfort in like an easy way, but I think Stan knew what was going to make you scared, make you nervous about this round. And he was very determined. I think there's a couple scenes of him saying like, it's not Danny, like, no, we're not doing that. I think he says it pretty explicitly.
Yeah.
And I always found that he was like such a great ally to you in that first round of like, absolutely not, we're not doing that. And the other purples are flabbergasted. They don't know how to respond. You've never heard someone just say to you, no, we're not doing that, moving on. But also, I'm curious the way that Jeremy sort of blows up at Kristen at Tribal Council.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I felt like it was a last-ditch effort. And I felt again like, okay, I'm gonna go into damage control after that. I'm not changing my vote. I go into that council thinking, okay, I'm voting Jeremy. I think we have numbers on Jeremy. Hopefully they don't actually play the idol for him, because at the moment I hadn't decided if I was going to use the nullifier or not. But when I didn't play it, I was just fingers crossed that Julia didn't play it for him. I didn't know at the time that it was Julia that had it, but I knew someone on purple had it. But yeah, I thought it was a little odd. It was unexpected. I could tell that Kristen was also thrown off by it. But I think if anything, it galvanized us to be like, okay, we're definitely taking him out now. Like, you know what I mean? Like if Kristen was on the fence, that pushed her over the fence to vote. I don't think she was on the fence at that point, but yeah, I mean, and then afterwards, I wanted her to know, like, hey, we're still together. It doesn't matter, like water under the bridge. And I think Jeremy was making a last ditch effort, knowing that he was getting some votes. But I think he actually, in saying, he even said, like, I don't expect my allies to play their idol for me. I don't know if I think I would have maybe gone and tried to say, like, he's not going to use maybe he won't use the nullifier. Like, let's use the idol. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a last-ditch effort, though.
Part of what he's talked about is that was definitely an effort to convey the information that like an idol, like, the idol nullifier was out there, because they didn't really know that at that point, because they were so isolated from you.
Right. Okay.
At the beginning of the game. But yeah, I think it's definitely, you definitely hit a lot on the head.
Danny, you got 3 votes from that tribal council, and then we did a challenge. We go to bed. Did you kind of like think about like who the people that voted for you?
No.
Did they ever confess to you?
I should have done that more. I knew Jeremy. I think Actually, even right now, I'm not even sure if I could tell you who the three were. I think it was Jeremy, Veronica, and Julia. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, good one.
I think Veronica did come clean to me. Julia didn't. And from then on, I had it out for Julia and I were not going to work together. I had a feeling like Veronica and I might be able to work together. But I also was kind of targeting the purples. I wanted to work with the just Brienne and Sharif, the only remaining blues, and keep my green strong and try to chip away at the purples who not counting Stan yet because I felt like I had a relationship with him.
Yeah.
But I would say like in terms of my personal pecking order, I would have wanted like they were people that I wanted to take out the purples anyway. And so I was but no, that's a good point. I should have done a little bit more like introspection and digging to figure out like exactly who voted for me. I do think Veronica came clean to me though. Or if she didn't then, she did like the next day kind of thing.
Hmm.
Going off your pecking order, at that point, like Jeremy's gone, did you have like two people in your mind that these are the two people I would want to sit at the end with, or did that come later for you?
Not at all. Oh God, I was not thinking about the end. In fact, I wasn't even thinking about the end when I should have been. And maybe we can keep going in order if you want, but my I think especially when I was immune. Oh my God, at 6 and at 5, I really really needed to be like, okay, who am I sitting with actually? And I didn't do that enough. Especially when I had the safety of immunity. Like, who gives a shit if I tie it? A 3-3 tie at 6, I'm safe. I'm not drawing rocks, and so I could have made bigger moves, especially when I was
Okay,
safe.
that one we're gonna definitely talk about, Danny. We'll get to that
Okay.
point.
Sorry. More on that.
That
But
final 6 vote. I mean,
no,
come on.
to answer your question, no, I was not thinking about final 3 at all at that point. I'm just trying to that vote especially was just trying to survive.
I mean, I could understand that stemming from like Brooklyn South 1 and 2. Like you were
Sure.
like the first merge boot, then you got like 8th or 9th place the second time. So I felt like maybe a little bit is you didn't believe in yourself so much. But
Sure.
you were never really a target this season. I have to say, never like a true, like, could have really went home target. Just rumbles of your name here and there.
Yeah, except for at that merge vote, I think I actually did get 3 votes there. I mean, it could have been, it could have been.
Yeah, I guess that could have been the one. But so we
But
get,
you're right.
we get
I
through
was
the night.
able to fly under the radar after that. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I don't know if I'm like lagging.
No, you're good, I think.
Oh, I'm good. Okay. So like we get through the night, the next day. This is sort of the turn in the game, I think, for you, because everything has sort of went like your way, and now this like split vote plan is in the works. You think it's going that way, but then a big blindside happens
Big
against
time.
your number 1, number 2, Andy.
Yeah.
So talk about that
Yeah.
chaotic
I mean,
scramble and
I was
puzzle.
I was completely shocked. Again, at that point, Andy was my number 1. I had told him that I hid the idol nullifier in part because I wanted him to be able to get it if I got voted out. And again, I owe it to Sharif and to Stan, I think, for having it not land on me, and having it be Andy instead. Because I think there was sort of a, the idea like let's blindside green.
Yep.
And I think it easily could have been me. And
that was a big conversation we had with a lot of players who were part of that vote. And, what if you had done Danny instead of Andy? And I think part of it was definitely your relationships with Sharif and
Yep.
Stan. But I also think that Andy was like a little bit more fluid in the game. Like you would have had more people protecting you and willing to protect you, like playing the idol on you, things like that, than Andy was. And you were really entrenched in this position where you had everybody on all sides looking out for you.
Yeah, and I maybe also too, like Andy had won that first immunity challenge as well. Maybe it goes. Maybe the people who are saying Danny, for the blind side might have gotten their way if I had won that first challenge instead and was safe that first merge vote. maybe there are more people who are like, Danny is a threat. We should take him out now while he might win the rest of these. Who knows? You know? And so Andy winning that first merge challenge might have helped, you know, made him be a bigger target. But yeah, I mean, I was completely shocked. I think all the green were shocked. And the aftermath was, I think you even caught it on tape. I was like, Sharif, like, what the heck? Like, I thought, you know, I felt most betrayed by him in that vote and in that moment. And he did a good job at sort of calming me down, being like, dude, it's good. Like, I got you. And don't worry. Like, it had to happen. I'm like, did it have to happen though? Like, come on. And honestly, losing Andy actually ended up in the long run, I think, making me closer with Sharif, you know, and also to Stan too at that sort of, you know, still in that early merge part, because I needed allies. You know, I needed allies to help me with my plan, which was to, you know, try to get out Julia.
Yeah.
But I have to say, this episode, this is where we get the peak Danny moments. I have to say, like, all season you've been like, you know, the top 5 kind of character, but this episode is the full on Danny experience, that you are like scrambling left and right. You reveal Kristen's idol to Sharif and to Brienne, and the moment of you telling Kristen that you told about her idol, and like the way you're able to like swing it around and save your ass, and then the vote is like becoming a split versus you and Kristen. You throw Robin under the bus.
Well, I did. I mean, and I don't think that was me that put Robin under the bus. I think I hopped on it. I hopped on the bus when I saw that it was, you know, but it was definitely sort of, there was this whole like paranoia that Robin had gone and told us the plan, which not sure
they hadn't.
I don't, honestly, I don't know if that is what, I don't remember what was said in that moment, but yeah, I think it was, I mean, I was again, I was thrust back into survival mode. You know, I probably shouldn't have, I don't know. A part of it was like, you know, information is power. That's how you show someone you really want to work with them. And so I thought by telling Sharif about Kristen's idol, didn't know that he had already, I think he already knew about it at that point. But I told him about the idol in order to show like, hey, like I really do want to work with you, you know. And you know, I think Kristen was rightfully you know, upset about it. But I also thought that like she should play it because it was putting a target on us. And it's like, you know, people don't like when it's a not even playing field. You know, somebody's got an extra vote or somebody's got an idol or something, you know. And so it's like, it's almost like there is an advantage to just being like, I'm just going to play this so that now you don't have to worry about it. And now we're all even. And so that was my advice to her. And I sort of tried to make it seem like glass half full, like use the idol, you'll be safe this round, you know, and like, and now we can come to them and say like, hey, like we're on the same playing field. And you know, but yeah, that was a hectic, definitely a hectic
Well, I feel like also the scramble at Tribal Council where Robin is voted out, that wasn't aired. I don't know if you remember that little like last minute scramble. That was chaotic, I think.
Was it where people got up and were chatting?
Yeah, that was the time that everyone got up. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, was that the Tribal Council you like got up and shook all your clothes? And like, I don't have
I think that was the one before. I think it was like because also Idlegate is happening. Danny has an Idlegate.
Oh yeah. Oh, we should talk about that too. I have this half-baked plan.
Oh my god!
I mean, you have it on tape. Even I go and I like pretend to pick something up and pretend to put something in my pocket. Basically just like pretending I have an idol. I make eye contact with Brienne and I like wink at her or something. But then I just like don't follow up with it. I don't know. I should have then told her like, hey, like I found the idol. Like if I want, I don't know what I honestly, I think I was just kind of dicking around and like, but I mean, it's funny to see her confessional. She really thought I had it, and that was maybe not smart. I mean, like, either go for it and pretend I have a fake idol, tell people, but I was working with her, so it's like I don't need to trick her. It would have been better if someone else had seen me find it, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what that was.
That's funny.
So that council was really tough though too for me, because that was the first. I really wanted to work with Stan and with Sharif, but they were going in different directions. This was when I think Stan really wanted Veronica, and Sharif wanted to do Robin. And so, I think Stan had wanted to do Veronica because he had heard that Veronica had put his name out there. I could have gone with that, but was trying to work with. I think at that point that's really when Andy's out, like, I'm really trying to work with Sharif now, and so I did what he wanted to do instead. And then what was next? Next was the idol nullifier. So now
man, Julia.
So now I finally
taking
feel like
her sweet time, eh?
Yeah. Well, now I finally feel like I've got some power. Oh.
Can we not?
I'm just putting it up. I love it.
Okay.
I just love her so much. Sorry, Danny.
No, you're good.
It's a little traumatic. Can we never show that again?
Well, so I mean, this is when this is like maybe the first big move that I was able to make was revealing to a few people that I had the nullifier, and that, like, we don't have to split the votes. Let's just do it. And I saw, obviously, in watching back, that Stan had told Julia that that muddied the waters, but I still think we had the numbers. We were good to go. And so that was cool to have been able to, I saved it. I was able to use it. Even if she hadn't played her idol, it really is, and I think I said in my confessional, like, it's checkmate. Like, it really is. There's nothing you can do once there are enough votes on you and a nullifier on you. Like, you're kind of toast. And so finally I was able to sort of get my revenge on Julia. She and I never really were able to work together, and it seemed like she was she was sort of against my alliance and me. So that's where that shook up.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I had talked to Sharif about this when I saw him a couple weeks ago for the finale, and I don't know if I even talked about it on here, but I had said if Sharif had just gone up to Julia and been like, "Give me your idol and I'll keep you for one round," I think it would have worked. And I actually think, surprisingly, it could have worked for you too if you had told Julia, "Hey, I have this nullifier. I'm going to play it on you." They could all be voting for you right now. Give me your idol. I'll save you for at least this vote. And I think it could have potentially scared her enough.
No, I mean, like, think about it. There's no way that she wouldn't. I mean, like, she wouldn't give up the idol. Also, I could have been bluffing about saving the nullifier for that long, right? I mean, like, we're now talking 3 tribals that I haven't used. I mean, I think it's also, it's I think they also were maybe I have a nullifier, maybe I'm bluffing, and I'm hoping people think I have a nullifier, and I don't actually. So I don't think she would have given up the idol. Maybe, but I mean, you should talk when you talk to Sharif. You should ask him more about that. But I don't think that would have worked.
Mm.
Okay.
So then we're down to what, 7 now, right? So then
that's the Veronica vote out.
Yeah,
and this is where I think everybody's like desires start to come really in conflict. It is this and 6, because Veronica's a vote that Stan really wants, but I think that like Sharif has been trying to protect her, and you're just, let's get rid of Veronica. She's been throwing my name out there for so long.
Yeah.
When you saw your end game at this point, right? You're in the final 7. Who were you envisioning almost like sitting next to you? If you had your way, who were the 4 votes going home?
I'm still not visioning the end game. That's my problem. I mean, I think that was the biggest flaw, one of the big flaws of my game. And there are a lot of flaws in my game, but I think one of it was like, I was just thinking about, let me survive this next vote. And let me make sure that ideally keep my numbers intact so that I can survive the next several votes without And basically, and I think honestly, this comes down to my overconfidence. I thought it doesn't matter who I'm sitting next to. I'm going to win this game regardless. If I make it to the end, I will win. Doesn't matter who I'm sitting with. So I think that's and that overconfidence, I think, was my downfall. That hubris there it was wrong, obviously. And, maybe I should have been planning more about like, okay, who do I actually want to sit next to? Who do I think I can beat in the end? And I just didn't. I certainly didn't at 7, and and maybe I should have at 6 and at 5, especially at when I was immune. But no, I mean at that point, still I'm trying to take out people who were targeting me. Veronica and I had never really been able to work together, even though we actually voted together. Unlike Kristen and I, who had we voted differently on the Robin vote. She had voted for, I think she voted for Veronica that time. And Veronica and I had both voted together, a couple times actually. And, but I still just, I was still trying to continue to work with Kristen, wanted to really continue to work with Sharif and Brienne. I saw that as my majority alliance and wanted to continue to take out some of the purples. And so Veronica at that point, huge challenge threat, and wanted to that sort of. So as much as Stan and maybe some of the others wanted to take her out, I also definitely, had Veronica at the top of my list. That council at 7.
Going into the final 6, though, I feel like this is where the game was kind of made this season, because we have 2 people from each original tribe.
Yep.
We had, the Big Boys Alliance. We had all these side alliances going on. So this is where it could have really went anywhere. Unity after Sharif had messed up.
Yeah, and
which I think could have really changed a lot of things, right?
Hugely. And also, I think, there was a part of me that almost even like said, like, hey guys, like let's just stop the challenge. Like he got it. I literally did think about that in the moment. Like, I know he did it the backwards way, but like he got 6 in a row, and I almost said something and basically just said like, it's fine. Like we can call it and give it to him. I'm glad I didn't do that, but but in my mind, like he kind of deserved that win, to be honest. So, and would have felt weird voting him out there, especially after he was so really so close to winning and really kind of deserved the win in my mind. But yeah, the rest of them were coming after Kristen, and I was doing everything I could to protect her in order to help, keep my number, keep my numbers. And she, again, was my ally, my number 1, and wanted to, really wanted to sort of keep her in. And I think though, and looking back at it, like that was the opportunity for me to make a move against Stan, I think. And I could have, I think if I had been able to work with Annie and Kristen and convince them and say like, hey guys, like I even said, and I think you filmed it or you showed it, like maybe at the final 8 or 9 or something. I said like, if Stan makes it to the end, he wins. I said that, I think.
Yeah. A lot of people did actually.
Okay, fair enough. But I didn't act on it, and I should have. And so I think especially at 6, where like, say the 3 of us vote for Stan, and say Brienne doesn't. I didn't know Brienne had the idol, but say she also doesn't, use the idol on Stan. Maybe it's a 3-3 tie, and like I'm good with a tie. If I'm safe at 6, like it actually doesn't bother me if they're drawing rocks. And so I could have done that, and I don't think Annie was as much of a threat to win. I think Annie still could have maybe shocked everybody at Final Tribal, but I think I was more likely to get votes sitting next to like Annie and Kristen, or Annie and or Annie and Sharif maybe, or Annie and Brienne. I'm not sure exactly the combination, but probably should have kept Annie in. And that was my mistake of sort of going for a vote that I basically voted out the person I had the least connection with, the person who was working with me the least, because I was, Kristen was probably my number 1. I really liked working with Sharif and Brienne, and Stan I knew and was working with him as well. And so basically the vote that didn't feel like a betrayal was Annie. And so that's but maybe that was the time where I needed to actually play Survivor and tell some real lies here and betray and take out Stan. But yeah, I didn't do that.
Well, I also think that Stan had done a good on paper, Stan had never gone to a tribal council pre-merge, and he, in a lot of ways, had a lot of votes that he was controlling, but I think on paper,
Sure.
like, Stan doesn't seem like an obvious winner, even though I think he does have a lot of credits to his name. And actually, I think the biggest target is Sharif in a lot of ways, which is why I think you see Brienne play the idol for Sharif at this moment in
Sure.
time, because I also think that would have been the right move to make.
Yeah. Except again, I mean, I don't think I think I did recognize. I recognized I really couldn't sit with Sharif at the end. Sharif's story, going to so many more tribals than anyone, and surviving them all if he makes it to the end. Like I couldn't go to the end with Sharif, but I was still really working with him a lot there, and there was still a significant amount of voting and of game to be played. And so, in a perfect world, maybe I am able to take Stan out at 6. And then, win the final 5 and then maybe at that point take Sharif out. And then I think I probably win the final 4 and then maybe take Brienne out and sit with Annie and Kristen. I think that would have been my sort of looking from the final 6 onward, look like maybe that's my best gameplay. And I just didn't make that switch really and just continued to be like, okay, who do I trust the least? I'm going to keep taking that person out. And that was, at a certain point you have to make that switch and think about the end. And I didn't do that enough.
I mean, I could commend you though, just because you did that, that is what got you to the final 3. I think by choosing the person you trust at least. Because final 6, I think, and final 5 even, if you weren't immune, you probably could have stayed just based off of your alliances and your social strategy.
Yeah.
So I commend you on that for sure. That the strategic side of the game, you had it down pat to get you to the final 3.
Here's the thing, though. I think if I had taken Stan out at 6 or at 5, I probably win that final 4 challenge. Maybe if Sharif is in it still, he maybe beats. But I think just in terms of speed, I'm the fastest left in terms of running and getting the things back and pulling together the numbers. Yes, Stan beat me, kudos to him, but I was not that far behind, and I think I would have been next, if it had gone a little bit longer. And so if I had taken Stan out and then I win and let's say I'm won 6 and 5 and 4 in a row, I've got a much more compelling story. And then I really do think at that point, it doesn't matter who I'm sitting against. I think I probably win if I win that final 4 challenge. So at the actual final 4 now, if I had beaten Stan, I do think I would have taken him out. And maybe Brienne would have won, but I think my story, because I know I've talked to some people and she and Sharif do have a really compelling story. Kristen also has a good obviously won a number of votes as well. But I think in the world where I have the most immunity, now I've got 3. No, Kristen has 2. Brienne, I don't think had any, or maybe 1, right? And so, I probably am able to win. I think I'm able to win that final 3. Maybe one other thing I could have, and it briefly crossed my mind, is forcing the tie. And maybe I should have asked Brienne, hey, if I give you this tie and you lose, do you promise you'll give me your jury vote? Basically, and that maybe could have worked, but I think any kind of tying and then you win to make your way into the final 3, you've got such a better story. And I didn't want to arm either of them with that story. So it would have been such a risk to have to give the tie and to turn on Kristen, who I had been working with all game, so I was happy that Stan didn't want to take me out at 4. I thought there was a decent chance I was out. But yeah, thankfully I was able to make it to the final 3.
I'm curious with the Sharif vote. Did you think Sharif was going home, or did you think Kristen was going home?
I honestly, I thought Kristen was going home, but I knew it was up to Stan. And that vote, I actually tried to tell Sharif, like, we need to take Stan out. He wouldn't hear it. I'm like, it wasn't caught on tape. That this was we were on the front part of the house, and we were sitting on the stoop, and I was like, dude, like, we really need to take out Stan. And the reason we didn't is he basically said, okay, but then what? Like, now we're at 4. And I said, like, let's just duke it out 2-2. Like, we'll fit, like, maybe we'll do a fire making challenge. Like, I don't know, but like, we need to take out Stan. And he didn't want to. And he basically said, like, I'm going to be honest with you. I really like you. So I'm just going to tell you, like, we're taking out Kristen. Sorry. And like, that basically
I remember that.
That forced my hand. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not voting out Kristen, so I guess we're going for Sharif. And if he played it trickily, he could have gotten his way. All he needed, if he said, like, if he yeses me and says, okay, yeah, let's do Stan. Like, I actually would have put my vote on Stan, and Kristen might have as well. And now Stan has to vote out Kristen. So I think Sharif maybe could have won. I think could have won the game if he had done that.
Wow.
And makes it to the final 4. I don't know if he's able to win that final 4 challenge, but because he definitely would have been a target at 4 if he doesn't win. But he would have been able to get his way and have Kristen get out if he had tricked me rather than being honest with me. Or I would have voted Stan for sure.
Yeah, or voted Stan out. Yeah, exactly.
Or
wow, this is great for next week.
With us. Yeah, that's also a way that that he could have gotten to 4. But no, I mean, when we went into it, I knew, like, that was a bridge far gone. Like, that was not going to happen, and I was convinced that it was. I knew it was all up to Stan. I made my pitch. Kristen made her pitch, and it was up to him. And
I love your reaction when the vote goes down. I think you say, like, fuck yeah or something, like you mouth it. It was just really like, you and Kristen were just great the whole time with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, by the way, how did you forget Kristen's name at the final 6? You called her Caitlin.
It wasn't Kristen's name, I forgot. I think it was.
No, you forgot 2
No,
people's
you
names.
forgot multiple names. You called Kristen Caitlin at one point, which was very funny.
And then
and
this was in my final.
Annie's name.
This is in my final statement. Okay, you gotta keep in mind, Chris, Naomi, like, we had minimal sleep. We'd been talking at Final Tribal alone for like an hour.
Yeah, that was a long time.
I mean, like, I was exhausted. I was like, I thought we were done. I don't know. I had a brain fart. I was just tired.
Yeah, I think what's worse, Danny, is that her name is in your name. Like, it's like Annie is in Danny. It was but I totally understand being tired, and that's also why we try to, like, get people to know names really early on, is because at a certain point you're running on fumes. Which is why I think you called Kristen Caitlin, because I think in your brain it was just like a name that starts with a C and ends in N. Got it.
I honestly don't even remember that, but yeah, I guess
we almost made it an episode title. I think we almost called the episode, like, "Who is Caitlin?"
Well, Naomi was pushing for that.
Thank you for not doing that.
I vetoed that, and then also in the final tribal council, I had you forgetting Annie's name edited out, but then Alex and Annie were on a cruise, and Alex asked Annie what she thought about it, and she was like, "Oh, you should just put it in there because it's funny." So then I had to change it.
I think it might have, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I think there is a world in which I could have won. I needed to get a couple more. I needed to get like 1 or 2 more votes, and the votes I think I maybe could have gotten if I had a stronger closing argument, and maybe some of the other parts too, were Julia's vote. I think the biggest one is Julia. I think I could have gotten Julia's vote if I had gone more of like the respect angle. Like, hey, like I like we were going against each other, and like, give me, like, sort of like hats off, it was this nullifier. Like, that was the play of the game. Like, come on, kind of thing, and I didn't really do that. I didn't do enough of that. And I don't know. It was close. But yeah.
Oh, another thing about the name forgetting, and the only reason why I asked this is because for the final tribal council speeches, everybody had a minute and 30 seconds. Um, but when you mess up Annie's name, you had started this like really good speech, you messed up the name, then it felt like you had another brain fart because like you
Yeah.
just kind of wrapped it up super quick
Yeah.
after like 45 seconds. You had another like 45 seconds to
Yeah.
talk, but you gave it up. Did that sort of like mess up your process?
Definitely. Oh my God. I could feel the jury like pulling away. And I think I actually heard from Veronica later when we were like chatting at the bar or whatever.
Yeah.
She even said like, because I said something like, and I outwitted you or something. Like it was just a bad closing argument. Honestly, I think I don't know if it made the difference, but it might have.
We'll talk to her, but I think the report that I had gotten after the season is that Veronica maybe was going to vote for you, and it was maybe going to be a 3-3-3 tie, and then she switched her vote at tribal council, which is tough to hear. But I also think that like everyone is really tired when you're speaking, and final tribal
Sure.
council is this really interesting place where you're asked to be like the most humble person you've ever been in your entire life, while also being the greatest player you've ever been in your entire
Sure.
life, while also you're exhausted, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting who can almost come out on top in those
Sure. And
situations.
I think I think the jury did a great job. Their questions were amazing. And here's an episode title, maybe, is The Lion, the Dolphin, and the Peacock. How's that? Right? I mean, we had some cool questions. It was
Yes.
it was really it was really fun. And I yeah, sure, I was exhausted at brain fart, but like, I mean, it was such a blast. I was so honored to even be able to make it to the final three and to play. Um, and I was hopeful, but I also wasn't expecting to win. Like as the votes were going, especially after I had that really bad feeling after that closing argument that didn't go well. I was like, I don't think I got this, but you never know. And
And I have to say, you endured the elements. I think everyone
Oh,
else changed clothes. You stayed in that same like outfit
I had the
until
black
the
t-shirt, which
very
was
end.
drenched. Yeah.
Like I don't understand. Like whatever, you didn't change, but like I was like, wow, that's really like sticking to it. Like you really endured through everything
Yeah,
for
had a
sure.
literal hurricane. Yeah.
oy vey, yeah. I think maybe I'm thinking that we can have the peacock tribe, the dolphin tribe, and the lion tribe for season 7. What do you think, Chris?
That's funny. I love that. Um, but like going into the final vote reading, we stacked it so it's like two Stan, two Kristen, two you. So there's three votes left. And what were you thinking in that moment? Like, were you thinking it was you? Were you thinking it's Kristen or Stan?
I thought it was Stan at that point. I don't know. I knew I honestly I'm not sure. I mean, I couldn't even tell like from handwriting or even Andy's like beautiful drawing. Like I wasn't really paying attention that
Yeah.
that's how Andy was doing his votes. So I didn't even know that was him, until later. And so I was I think I was shocked, just as shocked as everybody. I think most people watching the finale, there's a lot to like in all three of our games, and we've all played very different games. And so I was still not expecting to win. And I think I sort of thought that Stan was gonna get it at that point.
I think it was a very interesting vote count of 4-3-2, where
Yeah,
Kristen just needs one person to switch their vote, and
I
she
know,
could win.
right? Because
Now,
Kristen wins, by the way. If any of the people who voted for me had voted for Kristen, and now it's a tie, and I
well,
vote right if it had been a 4-4-1 tie, I'm voting for Kristen, not Stan.
yeah, it's
I thought
interesting.
about
I think
that.
in those situations, first of all, if one person is one and it's a tie, do we make that one person vote again?
No, it's the
versus
final
you.
third. It's the third place person who votes.
But those situations have always happened in an instance where it's a full split down the jury, no leftover votes, versus one person having a leftover vote. I've seen it go both ways, but I will say
I
that
think
was the question I just wanted to ask you was who would you have voted for if
Yeah,
it was
I
a tie?
for sure would have voted for Kristen as my number one. I was working with her the whole game. Yes, I knew Stan beforehand, but I liked Kristen's final tribal speeches more than Stan's. I thought Kristen was super genuine about some of especially some of her personal, journey in Survivor. And she was really raw at times. And I thought Stan did a good job at showing a little bit of bravado, which I think worked for him. But it didn't resonate with me as much as Kristen's.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have voted for him. If it were up to me, I would have voted for Kristen. And I think in general, if it's a tie between first and second, that you should give it to the final three, regardless, even if it's a 4-4-0 or 3, even if it's a 3-3-2, right? With 8, you could still have a 3-3-2. It should go to the final three. The person who had the 2 votes should go make that.
That's what I probably would have done as well.
Yeah.
Most likely. So looking back on the season, Danny, is there any moves that you wish you had made?
Yeah, I think we talked about it, but the biggest one was in that. I think my biggest mistake was in the final 6, especially when I'm immune. I that was the time I think I needed to take out Stan. So that was probably the biggest move that I didn't make.
I agree.
I think that's totally valid. I think not only taking out Stan, but if you had taken so here's where this is just like here's how you win Survivor New York season 5, right? You take out Sharif or Stan at 6, you take out Stan or Sharif at 5, and then I think personally you take out someone like Kristen at 4. And that's how you're at the end with Brienne and Annie. And I think Brienne is a good chance to win the game. I think Annie could talk herself up, but the chances are much higher, I think, than being against somebody like Sharif. And that's how anybody can win the game.
I would have needed to take out I would have needed to take out Sharif at 5 or at 4.
Yeah.
But I couldn't. I needed to not sit with Stan, and I needed to not sit with Sharif. But I think, especially given that I won 6 and 5, I think I probably can win 4. And now I don't necessarily. I think I probably could have won. I don't know. I don't know. Brienne has a great story as well, and Kristen obviously got more votes than I did. And I don't even know how. I don't know how Annie would have done in final. So I'm not sure. But I think sitting with either of the any two of the 3 women, I think I had a better shot than I did with Stan and Kristen.
Yeah.
Dan, do you have a favorite moment that you had throughout the season, and then a moment that you just really loved watching it, maybe, or behind the scenes moment, if you can think of any?
Yeah, I think the coolest moment, or my favorite moment, it was the idol nullifier play. Was just so cool to see, to have it actually work and have it be when you said, and this is the idol nullifier, I was like, fuck yeah, that's sick. So I thought that was really cool. And then we talked about it too, my favorite challenge, and the feeling of coming back in that 4th challenge where it was Robin, McKenna, Kristen, and I working on that little plate, getting that ball over. That was the best feeling of sort of that come from behind win after we had a tough loss and had to just vote somebody out. I think many of us were expecting to have a swap there, and you were like, drop your expectations and not drop your buffs. And we were, that was a really key moment, I think too. And a really fun one.
I feel like, Danny, I thought you had such an unbridled enthusiasm for the game. I thought that you were just ready to be there and ready to experience everything that was thrown at you. And I'm really happy that you were able to participate in this season.
Me too.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
It was honestly, it was such a blast of a weekend. I had so much fun and made some great friends, and it's so great to be in the community, and I hope to play again at some point in Survivor New York or in other games down the line. I know there are a bunch out there. Angelica, Maine, Philly, like there's all these, and so I should put my name out there soon and try to play again.
You should. I feel like you haven't done anything in a while, but I think one of the most exciting things is like for me seeing the relationships afterward, like Ed getting invited to Sharif's wedding, or like Kai going to Billy's wedding in season 4 from season 4.
Yeah.
It's just like
love that.
that's so special. Like that's like
Definitely.
a big life moment to be invited to something like that, and
For sure.
like I feel like there's a lot of friendships that we will literally have for many, many years to come. And I'm sure you have many of those. But you did something really exciting last summer, and you actually hosted your own Survivor game, one-day game in, I think, Clinton Park, you said, in New York City?
Clinton Park,
which I've
Manhattan.
actually been to before.
That's
It's
right.
like a little dog park, right?
There is a dog park there, but yeah, it's a pretty big park though. There's a big green, sort of astroturf there. There's basketball courts, there's racquetball courts, there's a playground. It's a huge. Yeah, it was a blast. I did it last August. I invited 4 people who had played in our game. Veronica, Sharif, Brienne, and Jeremy came to play. I actually I invited everyone on the cast, but only the 4 of them were able to come. And so yeah, it was a blast. It was so much fun. They all did great. I think Veronica was around 6th or 7th, and the final 3 were the other 3, and Brienne went on to win it. So it was really fun, and I had a number of other friends and coworkers and from other just people from all different walks of life, or other parts of my life, I should say, and that was able to pull it together. So yeah, it was a blast, and it was great to see them play again, and for Brienne to win it. It was cool.
That is
Amazing.
really cool.
And do you want to like tell people about what's coming up with that?
Sure.
Do you
Yeah,
wanna
I
mention
am.
it?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing another one. I'm looking at July 15th this summer. And so yeah, if people want to shoot me a DM or something, I'm happy. I'm still crafting it. I'm still building it out. But it's gonna be at Clinton Park again. And but yeah, I certainly can use some help. But I'm also looking for people to play too. So if anyone's watching this and interested, shoot me a note.
Amazing.
Definitely.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too.
So Chris, what's going on with us? What's going on with Survivor New York right now?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, well, I'm actually like trying to file all season 6 stuff right now, so that's one thing. But we have another podcast next week, Monday night. I don't know the time yet, but it's with Sharif.
Nice.
It is a big interview. This interview inspired so many questions that I have for Sharif now, and it is going to be a very, very special night. So you don't want to miss that. Danny, make sure you're watching.
I'll definitely watch.
Eventually, we will also talk to Stan. We got to get that on the. We got to get him on the horn, as you know.
For sure.
Also, Chris, we're casting season 7. Isn't that crazy?
Yes,
we're literally casting season 7. And if you don't know, now you know. Go to tinyurl.com/SNY7 app. You can apply now. We're going to close them in May, sometime in May. We don't know when. We'll announce it soon, but it's April, so get your applications in. If you want to come play, join us for one weekend in August, and I think make some friends and change your life. Have a great time.
I sure did. Was that for an ad?
We love that.
No, I really
Thank
did.
you for the testimonial.
No, truthfully, that summer, that was my favorite weekend of that summer. It was so much fun, so great to unplug and like not have to not worry about your phone or anything, just like and make a number of friends. And so yeah, I can't can't stress it enough. If anyone is on the fence, definitely apply. It's such a blast.
I cannot wait to see the new pack of people. We already have so many exciting people in the mix, and I can't wait for the season to happen. So join us, Survivor. All the links are in the description. Subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Chris, where are the TikToks at? I'm back on TikTok and I don't see anything from you.
Oh gosh, I had to take a break. It's really hard to be a TikTok celebrity. I'll get to it eventually. There's more. There's so many scenes that's something I have to say. There are a lot of scenes that we're still not seen from the season, and I will post more, and I'll try to get more clips up. And there's going to be more voting confessionals from the whole season that I'll put out, and there's still more content from season 5. So just wait and see.
Yeah, it's not over yet. I think that's you guys are it never stops.
Really
it's crazy.
You're really squeezing all the juice out of this one.
We're getting all the toothpaste out of the tube.
Exactly.
No, I'm so excited. Thanks, Chris. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone who's watching, listening.
The time late on a Wednesday. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so you get your Survivor fix, and then you come here for Survivor New York. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have